I think an awful lot of people know that when you sleep on your side, you don't snore so loudly. And so that's why husbands and wives roll over their partners to stop them from making so much noise. And what I didn't realize was how much better people were when they slept on their side. So what I did was I looked at the last few years of our sleep studies, and we do an awful lot here. We do 6,044 different sleep studies in the last few years. And in those sleep studies, I found that when you compare when you're sleeping on your back, the snoring levels and the sleep apnea on your back compared to on your side, 85.7% of people were at least 20% better when they slept on their side compared to on their back. Now, 20% seems like not very much, but when you look at the numbers a little bit more detail, 60.3% of people were completely cured when they slept on their side. Their snoring levels came down. Their AHI came down to less than 5. That AHI is the number of times that you stop breathing every hour on average. It's a marker of severity of sleep apnea. So if you're over 5, you have sleep apnea. If you're under 5, you're within the normal limits and therefore considered normal. And so 60.3% of people were abnormal sleeping on their back with sleep apnea, sometimes up to 100 AHI. But when they slept on their side, they came down to less than 5. It's nowhere near as sort of inconvenient or difficult as having an operation, for example, or an implant for the rest of your life, CPAP, mandibular advancement devices. All those things have sort of annoyances, inconveniences related to it. Sleeping on your side, relatively, in terms of risk to you, is very, very low. For a 60.3% improvement to the point where you're cured is a remarkable improvement and something I just didn't realize so much. So I thought to myself, why on earth aren't we all talking about this? And I think part of the problem is the definition. Positional sleep apnea relies on the fact that you are at least 50% better when you sleep on your side compared to when you're on your back. But then I know an awful lot of people, really desperate people, who would say, well, if you had told me if I slept on my side, I'd be 45% better, well, then I would have taken that. I want to be 45% less noisy, more productive, less tired during the day, less sleep apnea, less risk to myself. So just because I went from 45 and I wasn't up to 50%, you should have told me beforehand. And I think some people would say, look, 20%, 10% would be fine. I just want to feel 10% better. That would be great. And I clearly saw this in my own practice because I do a drug-induced sleep endoscopy. That means I watch people sleep in front of me with a telescope down the back of the throat so I can see what's going on inside their throat, where the snoring's coming from, where the blockage is coming from. And some people would just sleep like this at one point. They'd lie from their back and go like this. And even that movement there would open up their airway. I think, how is that working? And I moved them into different positions to see what position was the most effective. And yes, this opens up the airway slightly. And sleeping on your side also opens up your airway greatly. But the thing that I found that was the most effective, the position that worked best, was the recovery position. And the airway is nice and straight. Your chin is open like this. And you can also see children doing this at home when they have sleep apnea. Children who have problems breathing, who are snoring, things like that, they tend to sleep in a very extended position like this. And it's similar to the recovery position. All these things are children and other people trying desperately to be able to breathe better with obstructive sleep apnea. So I investigated this further and I found on my YouTube channel that there are positional devices like the Zoma or something like that, or the slumber bump, that's like a strap around your chest and a big pillow behind your back. So a bit like a tortoise, you can't lie on your back. The problem with these I found was that you have to get the strap so tight, it becomes difficult to breathe because otherwise it can get turned around. So you end up sleeping on your back with this pillow right in front like this. You actually need it on your back the whole night. So that's not so great. But the woody nose backpack, the one that goes like an almost like a rucksack as well, that again makes you feel like a tortoise. You can't lie on your back, but it doesn't tighten across your chest so much. But there are problems with these. The problem is that lying on your side is quite difficult. It hurts your ear. When I did this myself and I was testing it out on myself, I started getting pain in my ear, just in that cartilage area just there, pain in your neck. My shoulder felt like compressed and the circulation, my hand went. So I got pins and needles in my hand. So I felt like I had to keep lying on my back. I couldn't sleep on my side the whole night comfortably. And then there's also down one side at my hip, I got a hip bursitis, pain in my hip. And for the first hour or so during the day, I was sort of hobbling around because it hurt on my hip. And I couldn't sleep in that position for very long. And I realized that actually these positional devices, although they force you to sleep on your side and you can't sleep on your back, they don't work very well because people are desperate to sleep on their back because it hurts so much in different parts of your body. So sleeping on your back is more comfortable, but for the sake of your airway, people need to sleep on their side in some cases. So any long-term viewer of this channel will know back in April 2022, I did a video on snoring pillows. And I looked at all these pillows and tried to find the one that was best so I could say to people, look, buy this one, this is the best. But unfortunately, I found that they were all just sort of neck support. None of these things I thought to myself, I could really recommend to anyone. They all looked unusual shapes and stuff like that, but they're all basically neck support. And they didn't really help you stay on your side without all the other problems that you get, the things that even I picked up after a few weeks of sleeping on my side. So I thought to myself, maybe I'll make my own pillow. And the last slide of that video has me saying, look, I think I'm going to make my own pillow. What I decided to do is make my own pillow. I got into my bed and got all these pillows arranged in different ways to try and get me to sleep in the recovery position because I knew that was the best way to sleep, to open up my airway. And it was difficult because obviously there were pillows everywhere. And in the morning, although I thought I found the greatest sort of position, everything sort of separated and it didn't really work. But eventually I found a position and a sort of arrangement of pillows that worked for me. I wrote up my design and everything, and I thought to myself, yes, this I think will definitely work. So because I thought it was the right thing to do, I went to a design company, a fancy design company in the center of London, and I said, "Look, here's my design. I'd like you to make this and help me create it and give it out to everyone." And I spent ages, I spent a lot of money on this design agency, and they tore up my idea straight away and said, "No, no, no, that'll never work." And they gave me their own ideas, which was a normal pillow with a V stitched into it. And I thought, "Oh my God, why? What's this?" And they said to me, "Oh, well, it's a V, and it's like your name, and people will buy it." And I thought, this doesn't make any sense. And they gave me a few other pillows, but none of it made any sense. And I spent a lot of money, wasted a lot of my savings on that, and I had to start all over again. Once I saved up again, I found some agents. I said, "Look, go out there and find me these things. I really need people who can do this, this, and this. I need these materials, all this stuff. I need someone who can make this for me." And again, they went out, they came back with nothing. I wasted an awful lot of money, I had to start all over again. And eventually I thought to myself, look, I'm just going to do this all myself. And I don't care how long it takes. I'm just going to work and do every little step of the process myself because otherwise I'm just going to get frustrated and I'll lose all my money. So I started off by learning how to do CAD design. CAD design is this computer generated thing that factories will only talk to you about if they see a CAD design. So I learned how to make CAD designs. I wasn't very good and I got some help along the way, but at least I understood it. And when I started talking to factories, I started understanding their language and say, they need this, and this sort of file format and all that sort of stuff. And it was starting to progress until they said to me, okay, so, what do you want to fill this pillow up with? And I thought, well, I want the most premium thing out in there. I want duck down, this particular type of duck. And I want this very, very soft thing in there, which is supportive. Everything I wanted, breathable, everything. But when I found a little bit more information about duck down, these feathers are sometimes plucked out of these special ducks live. So they're alive and they're plucked. It's horrible sort of idea. And I found out that 320 ducks had to die to make my one pillow. I thought, I can't do that because if I made 500 initial orders for my pillow, that's 160,000 ducks had to die for this. And so I couldn't just live with myself with that. So I decided on memory foam, and I looked at memory foam compositions and things like that, and that worked out quite well. But there are problems with memory foam as well. And I went down this other rabbit hole of looking at all the toxic chemicals, off gassing, and things like that. And I had to go through all the factories saying, look, do you use this process? At this step in the process, do you use this? And in the end, I got some Tech certificate or something like that, environmentally friendly, non-toxic sort of chemicals and things like that. So eventually, once I found a couple of factories that would do all this for me, that'd not use any sort of hazardous chemicals and no off-gassing, things like that, I got a little bit closer. And honestly, after doing all the fire regulation and washing instructions took me ages to do, and all these things from around the world, I've learned so much doing this. I never knew it was so complicated to make a pillow. But eventually, I've managed to get there, and I've got to a situation where I've actually created a design. I've got a sample of my own. And some of you might have guessed, if you look behind me, that is actually my pillow there. And I'm going to explain how it works right now. So I appreciate this is a slightly unorthodox position or an angle to do a YouTube video, but I'm going to try and explain how this pillow arrangement works. There's like a head area and there's a body area. And there are two holes in particular that I want you to look at. And it's quite useful, obviously, because you don't want to put any pressure in your ear when you lie down on it like this. But the real reason for this is so you can get into the recovery position, that position I was talking about earlier, because I want you to be able to sleep like that with your chin in this area here. I don't want to go like this because if you do this, you push your jaw that way and your face goes the other way and you can get jaw joint problems there. What I want you to do is get your chin into this gray area here. So you're sleeping like this. So also with your mouth like this, I forgot to mention, it keeps your mouth closed and it extends your neck slightly. So you don't have to keep using mouth tape and chin straps and things like that. And it's important to note that actually this area here is supporting your head. So when you go in, you go like this, and all the support, all the area that's holding your head up is this area here. That leaves the ear free, and there's a little bit of support here if you feel like you can tolerate it. But if you're really in the recovery position, or even better, if you're sometimes you can be in the prone position like that, where you're putting all the pressure on your head here. That doesn't press on your neck at all. If you're finding that there's a bit of a problem there, you can actually put your shoulder like this and bring this down a little bit. So there is no problem about you feeling like there's a bit of pressure on the front of your neck. So this you can decrease or increase in size. 0.5 centimeter is all you're really looking for by reducing this. The other benefit of having a long hole in the middle of the pillow here, and quite a deep one as well, that way when your head is in like this, there's plenty of air, plenty of space for you to breathe. The other advantage of having quite a big hole here is that you can wear a CPAP mask. So here's a CPAP mask that I used a long time ago, and you can put this on like this, and you can see it fits within that space. When you roll over to your side like this, it doesn't leak and come around the side here. And there's also some space, if you want to sleep right at the end here, there's some space for the hosing to go in and then out again to your bedside cabinet, or the other way around if you wish. Some people in testing put this underneath like this. So it sort of held them in that position. So the hose was underneath like that. Now you may have noticed that this seems a little big for me, and it really is. My pillow was designed for people who are 5'9" and above, because that's a normal size of people with obstructive sleep apnea in the Western world. And so this is slightly big for me because I'm 5'7". But there is a workaround for people who are smaller than 5'9". And what that is that you push this up a little bit and make this smaller. So this hole becomes smaller if you have a smaller head. So for example, my son, who is not a teenager yet, he's about 40 kilos or so, and his head is smaller than mine. So when he puts his head in there like this, your head falls in like that. But if you squeeze this area here and make this slit smaller, it fits him. So it works on people who are 4 foot something, all the way up to 6'4". I've tried it on. I've tried it on people who, like my son, who's about 40 kilos, and it goes up to 140 kilos, and it works for those people as well. Now, the second hole you should think about is not this area here, but the space between the body and the head area. And this is the area where your shoulder goes into. Now, you might just want to do this, but actually I want you to roll right into it so that this body part is taking the whole pressure off your shoulder. So already I can feel that there's no pressure on my shoulder. It doesn't hurt at all. This is taking my entire weight. Unless, however, I stretch my arm out straight like this, and you can get some pins and needles if you put your arm straight like this. So actually, instead of your arm straight out like this, it's sometimes, well, it feels better for me to bring your arm up like this, to hold it in that position. I do this cross arm appearance. So I put one arm like this, one arm like this, and it seems to get rid of all the pins and needles, all the circulation problems in my arm. I don't have any pressure on my shoulder at all. It feels really comfortable in that position. Now, some people decide to sleep with one arm that goes around the edge here, or around this curvature here. And that way, because I didn't make a square thing, it was originally square, but now it's curved to allow people to put their arm around like this. So it goes around like this, and you can still sleep like that. And that's really comfortable for those people. Some people don't use it at all and just go a bit like a skydiver like that. But it depends on all the different types of sleeping positions that you like. You'll see also that this goes all the way down this way. It goes down to my knees. And the idea is I wanted to give my hip as much support as possible so that I don't get a sort of hip bursitis, a pain in my hip down here. If for whatever reason I decide to roll on to my back, it's really uncomfortable. You physically can't sleep like this. And it's more comfortable to sleep on your side like this. The other important bit about this being an incline is that Some people with obstructive sleep apnea get a little bit of gastritis or heartburn, reflux, all those sorts of things. With a slight incline, it reduces the effect of gravity, sorry, increases the effect of gravity on the stomach contents, keeps it down in your stomach, so it stops it from keep coming up at night. Thankfully, I'm in this seat now. So a lot of people may ask the question now, should I buy this thing or not? And I think it's important to say from the outset, this is not going to magically cure sleep apnea and obstructive sleep apnea and snoring and all those sorts of things. All this does is help you sleep comfortably in a side sleeping or in a recovery position sort of situation, or even prone if you're sleeping on your front like that. If, however, you know that when you sleep on your side, the snoring levels go down, if you know that you breathe better and you wake up more refreshed after sleeping on your side the whole night, then maybe this might be a good idea for you because it just helps you stay more comfortably on your side or sleeping in the recovery position. If you know the percentage improvement and it's worth it for you to get that percentage improvement, then maybe this might be a good idea for you. The last thing I want to do is oversell this at all because I want it to be genuinely useful for people out there. And I'm not going to say to everyone, this cures everything like all the other snoring pillows do. If, however, you're one of those people who already knows that this might be useful for them and you want to buy one of these things, then go to iwantgreatsleep.com and you'll be getting one of the ones from the first 500 that I'll be producing that are going to the UK. They'll be heavily discounted at the start because I want people to use it, feel the benefits, and then share their experiences with others so they can also be interested in buying this thing. What I really want to do is hear from you if you found it useful, particularly if you've got a pillow and you're having a drug-induced sleep endoscopy with me, because I'd really like to show you what it looks like in your airway when you're sleeping on your back compared to when you're sleeping on the pillow. So I can show you how open your airway is because I've tried this on loads of people. I know it works. I really hope that you like this idea that I have. It's completely new. It's completely different to all the other pillows out there. I'm really excited, and I hope you are as well. I can't wait for you to try it. Do take care. Bye bye.